Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, if you struggle with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, PTSD, this episode might be the episode for you. My friend Aaron we're going to be talking about trauma, mental health issues, and how to get healthy mentally. So sit back, relax, have a cup of coffee, enjoy this conversation, and hopefully you'll pick up some things you can use. And actually, if you stay till the end, at the end, we're going to give you 3 things that you can use today to actually start getting healthier mentally. Aaron, my friend, welcome to the show.
Hey, Richard. Pleasure to be with you. Thanks so much.
I love it. And hopefully you're having a great day out there in Colorado.
Yeah.
My first question is, what is your definition of resiliency?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's a great theme, resiliency. I think that it's the ability to get back to your center point. I think that we all of us get knocked off of balance, sometimes daily. We kind of lose track of where we need to be. We get stressed out, we get angry, we get confused, and the ability to kind of recover, the ability to kind of come back to what you know is your proper direction, what you know are your value points. I think that that's where having a purpose in life, being clear on what your purpose is, being clear of not just generally, purpose like in a big global philosophy, but also daily kind of actions that that are intrinsically good for you to do repeatedly. And so I think that what I find resiliency to be is when I'm way off track, when I'm acting in a way that is not good, I remind myself of what are some good action steps that I can do right now to help me remind myself that this is not where I want to be. And that can be simple things. It can be the way we talk to somebody. That can be just the way we interact in the world. So I think that would be an important part, is how quickly can we recover from getting knocked off balance.
And I love that, and I think I'm a big Rocky guy. I love the Rocky series. And
Yeah.
I love when he says, you get knocked down 7 times, you get back up 8 times.
Exactly.
But I think it's how you get back up and how you stay up. So, let's talk about trauma, because, it's not just a military thing. It's not just a first responder thing. A lot of people, even in the civilian population, struggle with trauma.
Yeah.
What exactly is trauma? What is the definition of trauma?
I think it's one of those things that's kind of like, it when you see it. I mean, I think that to some extent it's a personal definition. What I might see something as traumatic and somebody else might not, and vice versa. But I think if you've experienced something that stays present in your life in a destructive way and can come back in unexpected ways with force and fury and really get you off balance, like we were talking before with resiliency, that's trauma. And the initiation of it can come from a lot of different areas. There are obvious areas like what your audience is largely aware of, military, combat, traumas are, it's crystal clear, but there can be other ones that are less clear, less explicit. So I think my definition would be, if you've experienced something in your life that has stayed with you for a long time and is causing devastation, destruction, despair in your life in the present, you've had trauma. You've had a trauma experience.
Now, you obviously have what, over 40 therapists. You've helped thousands of people. So there must be a lot of people struggling with trauma.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
What do you see that a lot of people are struggling with trauma now that you weren't seeing when you first started out?
Well, first of all, I think that most people that come to therapy, and including if they have a very severe trauma background, often they're not going to lead with that. They're not going to say, hey, I have these flashbacks, I've had this trauma experience, I can't get over it, I need to work through it. They're going to come in and say, I keep getting in this, I want to kill my boss, or, I can't get out of bed, or my wife's driving me crazy, or things like that. Or somebody said I should come in for anger management. Do you do anger management? That kind of thing. And it's only through the process of the work that the trauma rises to the surface. And a lot of times I think people with trauma want to kind of exile it. Many times they don't see it as a legitimate thing. It's like, well, that did happen to me, but it was a long time ago. And like, there's no way that could still be the issue now. So they kind of want to distance themselves from the trauma. It doesn't feel acceptable to them. And so we kind of exile those feelings. It's sort of the idea of kind of putting it into our shadow self, where we may be aware of it, but we try to avoid it. We don't want to talk about it. So I think in the course of the therapy or in the course of the relationship, hopefully it can be understood better and it can be brought back into the surface of consciousness and an area of acceptance of like, you know what? It's okay if this thing it makes a difference in my life. And now that I accept that, I can work on it.
Okay, so you say acceptance, and I think that's one of the most important things is acceptance. But like when I started seeing my therapist 13 years ago, she said, I can't help you unless you're brutally honest. You have to, tell me exactly what's going on, because if you're not honest with me, I can't help you. There's no way I can help you if you're not being honest. So how important is being brutally honest with the person that's trying to help you?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's a great question. I think brutal honesty is great, is very important. The issue is, though, that I don't know how quickly you were able to establish a connection with your therapist in which you felt comfortable to be brutally honest with her, because after all, you're starting with a therapist, they're a stranger, so I think that from my perspective, the first order of business is establishing a real connection, a real rapport, a real environment in which brutal honesty feels safe, feels appropriate. And we were talking about this a tiny bit before the show too. I kind of, as a therapist, I kind of need to be aware of how I might present to the person in front of me. I'm not a veteran. Haven't had that experience. I don't know what it's like. So I think for a lot of veterans, perhaps that can take some time to decide, how brutally honest do I want to be with this guy, And that's part of the work. I don't know how long that takes. Sometimes it takes a very short time, sometimes it takes a lot longer, and people they're ready to be honest. Hopefully we're always being honest with each other, but from honest to brutally honest is kind of a big step. And so I want to be patient with that when necessary.
Well, I think that if I was going to go see you and me and you were sitting down and you say, I don't know a lot about the military.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me more?
Yeah.
I would be more than willing to open up to you, because you bought the wall down.
Yeah.
Because, now you're just saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
What is it really like? And then I think somebody would be more apt or willing to talk to somebody that's willing to learn, instead of just having preconceived notions. So I think maybe it can work both ways.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think for me, real, genuine, intense curiosity is vital. I need to really want to know your story, and I need to be curious about it, and I need to be very open, as you just suggested. So I think that would make a huge difference. It might make an immediate difference. I'm just saying that I need to be prepared that it might not be immediate, might take a little bit of time. But in general, I love that. And I agree with you.
All right, I got a question. Somebody sent me through my phone. His name is Craig. He says, what is the difference between PTSD and complex PTSD?
Well, I honestly, I don't know if I can give a thorough answer to that question. But I think my sense, I think that the complex PTSD would also involve a lot of comorbidity with other adjacent issues, such as addictions, such as major depression, so things like that would be complicating the PTSD. The straight PTSD is really the stress reaction that's very specific to the event or a series of events that are causing problems in the person's life. I think maybe complex PTSD would be much more complicated by the fact that there's alcohol abuse, there's cocaine abuse, there's sexual addiction, there's major depression as well. That would be my sense of things. I don't know if I'm answering Craig's question as well as I should. But,
no, that's perfect. I think that's a great answer. Like for me, I believe there's post-traumatic stress, and then I believe there's post-traumatic growth. Like I had PTSD until one of my mentors, Mr. Ed Milet, sat me down and said, Rich, nothing has ever happened to you. It's all happened for you. And everything is a teachable moment. And that's when I realized, okay, then now I'm ready for post-traumatic growth. So what are your thoughts on, flipping the script and actually learning and actually benefiting from the things that happened to you in the past?
Yeah, I'd really want to think about that. That's a very interesting question, and a very powerful kind of image of how can this event actually be strengthening as opposed to weakening. Can I just put that back to you? Could you tell me a little bit about how you understand that, how that's been part of your life?
Well, I just, this is like my 1600 interview, something like that.
Yeah.
And the people that I found that are the most successful in life have had trauma, but they've learned from that trauma and they use that trauma as fuel
Mm. Mm.
to have a better life or to help affect more people. And for me, I believe that if I didn't go through my injuries, the PTSD, the drug addiction, the alcoholism, the homelessness, I wouldn't be able to help people today.
Yeah,
So,
well,
you know what I mean?
yeah, I do. I do know what you mean. That the way you've used your experience as enormous motivation to make a difference in other people's lives, and to do everything that's necessary in order to do that, to create a podcast, to create an audience, to find guests, to do the work, is a great way to you've harnessed that energy, in a positive direction. You're utilizing it instead of it sort of acting on you in a destructive way. Yeah, I love that in concept. I would have to think about how to help engender that in a client. It's something I would really want to think about.
Okay, so now another thing, that I'm seeing a lot of, I see a lot, the people that I'm interviewing, a lot of them are going through childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And the way I see it, and of course I'm not a professional, I'm only a ninth grade dropout. But when an adult acts out, it's normally because something that happened between the ages of 3 and 13. That's what I'm seeing, that most of the time that when an adult acts out is because of stuff that happened in childhood trauma. Do you see that a lot? Is that something that you notice?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that's it's hard for people to access that, and it's hard for people often to kind of come to that awareness. I would say for your audience, just for interest, if anybody's interested, I mean, I've recently been very much doing a lot of reading on Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, student of Freud, and a lot of your audience may know this already, but one of his major concepts was that, excuse me, Ruckus, stop it. It's all right. Was that we tend to exile sort of things that happen to us in childhood. We get strong messages from parents, from society. Certain behaviors and ways of being are acceptable, and certain behaviors and ways of being are not acceptable. And that's not just in terms of like being a criminal or not being a criminal. It's also in terms of personality types. Like creativity can be downplayed. All kinds of positive aspects can be kind of, that's showing off. Or a parent that's very hostile, harshly critical for certain behaviors, and we tend to kind of deny those and not want to consider them part of our life. I mean, let me try to be a little bit more explicit or articulate on this. I think it's one of the reasons why, for example, we are so fascinated by stories of true crime, for example, or watching, people out there in TV land that have done horrible things. It's sort of, we kind of want to distance ourselves from them and sort of pretend that that's not even like a human being. We don't even have, that's something that's not within me. But that's us exiling sort of our shadow side. It's saying, and that is a human being. It's just that it's just that circumstances have gone very differently. So I think what I'm trying to say is that that getting a better sense of integration of all of our sides and bringing them into awareness is very helpful in knowing yourself. And then when you know yourself fully, I choose to accentuate these parts of my personality. I choose to accentuate the positive without having to deny the negative. Anyway, that's not so good. But I think that what I would say is, if any of this intrigues any of your listeners, I'd encourage them to kind of take a look at Carl Jung. It's fascinating, his work on the shadow side of our personalities.
You know, and I love that. I love how you talk about self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But I also realize we live in such a busy world where, and I even noticed it within myself, I don't really have any downtime or quiet time to have self-awareness.
Yeah.
Unless I, you know, put it in my schedule. Okay, I'm just going to take 5 minutes just to be today. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to be for 5 minutes. So, you know, talk about how, you know, the world, how crazy the world is right now and how busy we are. It's hard to become self-aware when we're always plugged in.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I really do. And I think that really goes to the heart of this, what I'm trying to express. Yes, we are incredibly busy, and the world is incredibly busy. But I think we also very often want to make ourselves very busy so that we don't have to just be with ourselves sometimes. And we want to stay distracted. Or it's a defense mechanism. Yeah. Because, you know, to sit with ourselves can be difficult, you know, and especially if we're sitting with some of our darkness, can be very difficult and very unpleasant, and we want to deny it. We want to avoid it, so we stay busy so that we don't have to do that. But I think that doing it is well worth it. And if you can somehow have floating over you a sense of acceptance that this is okay, that yes, there's some really dark thoughts, there's some really dark impulses, there's some really bad inclinations, but I can acknowledge those and I can still be okay. I can still be a good person. I don't need to reject them. So obviously, you know, meditation is great. Meditation is kind of challenging yourself to let your mind become more clear, or let your thoughts pass. That's a better way of putting it. It's not really letting your mind being clear. Meditation, when it works, is not that you're sitting there still and not having any thoughts. Sometimes you can be bombarded by thoughts. What you're practicing doing is letting those thoughts pass through like a breeze, you know, just pass through. We're not fusing with the thought. Usually it's not the first negative thought that is the most destructive. Like, it's not, okay, I gave you an example. It's not like, oh, I want to kill that guy. That's the first negative thought. But very often the destructive parts comes, what the hell? When the second and third thought, like, what the hell's wrong with me? Why? Do normal people think like that? You know, why am I, he didn't even do anything. What is wrong with me? You know, people say that I'm too uptight, and I think I really am. I think they're right. I think maybe I'm going crazy. You know, it's all of it's the the series of thoughts that pile on after that cause the real destruction. If we can get better at like, I want to kill that guy. Okay, that's a thought, it's a thought. I'm not gonna fuse with it. I'm not gonna engage with it. I'm gonna let it pass. And they do. Thoughts do pass. Think about how many billions and billions of thoughts that we've had in our lifetime that they're just gone, right? I mean, they just disappear. Eventually they disappear. And we can get better at letting go of those thoughts and letting them disappear quicker. And I think that can be very healthy.
And like I think the more you think about something, the stronger that cord gets, and the stronger that it keeps coming back. And I think your reticular activating system. I think what you think about, your obsessions become your possessions, whether that's good or bad. So I think a lot of times we have to, change what we're thinking, change what we're listening to, change what we're watching in order to change our lives. What are your thoughts?
I'm sorry, Richard. Could you repeat that? The change what we're thinking.
What we're thinking, what we're watching, what we're listening to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think people need to we really need to remind ourselves that sort of media it only has one purpose, and that is to grab your attention, hold your attention, and manipulate your emotions. And that's mostly what's going on with social media and things that all of us engage with way too much. And I think being aware of that, and being aware that there's a lot more richness and peace to be found ultimately in simplicity and internally than there is out there. And there's not peace, and simplicity doesn't sell products either. The media is not in the business of peace and simplicity. They're in the business of animating, activating, and some of the most animating and activating emotions are things like anger, things like disdain and rage. And so if they can push those buttons, it's going to grab attention and hold attention. And that's really what they're in the business of doing. But in terms of mental health and emotional well-being, especially if you're already coming at it from a deficit, you're already coming at it from a place you're compromised, you're feeling compromised emotionally, it's going to just make things exponentially worse. So yes, I agree with you. I think nature helps. I think sunlight helps, natural sunlight. I think healthy sleep patterns is huge. And I would encourage people to get early morning sunlight and late afternoon, early evening sunlight in their eyes outside without sunglasses on. Helps to really set the circadian rhythms, biorhythms, allow us to kind of sleep in a more natural way. Sleep is just critical for mental health. I think exercise is vital for mental health. We want to connect with our bodies, get out of our minds. And I think that's the other thing I would suggest to your audience is, those are two of my things. But what are your things? What are your things that you know to be healthy, or that you have a strong, trust your gut, trust your instinct. What is your instinct? The wisdom of your body. What is your instinct telling you is healthy behavior for you? and then do the hell out of that as often as you can.
I love that. But now, say if somebody's trying all this stuff and it's not helping.
Yeah.
How do we get in touch with you guys? How do we get into your ecosystem?
Yeah. Well, I want to try to. So our website is bostoneveningtherapy.com. People can reach me directly at Aaron, AARON, at bostoneveningtherapy.com. There is one issue with that, and that is that service is, the predominant service there is psychotherapy and counseling. And for that, people would have to be Massachusetts residents. However, we are also starting an individual life coaching service.
Yep.
Starting off as a single session encounter in which we focus on developing purpose, acceptance, and clarity within that framework for people to build their healthy life. We've purposefully set it as one session, and this would be available anywhere for anyone in the world, anywhere in the world. We've purposely set it as one session because we want to recognize that everything comes to an end. I think that I'm very much a believer in sort of existentialist thought and philosophy that says, we do need to recognize everything comes to an end. And while that on its surface can feel kind of depressing or defeatist or something like that, when you really do accept it, it actually can be very enlivening because it puts a real emphasis on the now and on the living and on this moment in time, which is all we have. And it puts an emphasis on cherishing and getting the most out of every interaction that we have. So in that session, it wouldn't be specifically working through all of PTSD, although it could be very helpful. But we would want to, I think this would be a way that we could engage with a wider population. So yeah, in short, they can reach me that way at my email. And you can also, if you go to the website, there's a lot of information on there. There's a lot of posts. There's a lot of posts on trauma, and all kinds of other mental health issues. So yeah, we'd love to be helpful to your audience in any way that we can. And I want to say personally, I know this is a trite, and I know that it's sort of a cliche, thanking veterans for their service, but as a non-veteran and as a person who loves this country, it truly is incredible to think of the level of service and sacrifice that the military, the individuals in the military have given. And I certainly appreciate that and admire everything that you guys have done.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being a patriot. So what was your website again, one more time?
BostonEveningTherapy.com. It's called Boston Evening Therapy. I started it in 2007, and at that time, everything obviously was in office, and I was finding that all of my evening sessions were getting booked up months and months in advance. And so I thought, hey, it'd be nice to have a practice that really focuses on evenings and weekends and off work hours. Since then, over the years, it's kind of evolved to be, 24/7 more or less. So, but yeah, that's what it is. BostonEveningTherapy.com.
And you also have so many different therapists, right?
Yeah, tons of different therapists, and all with different therapeutic approaches. But again, just for your audience, if you're in New Jersey or other states or elsewhere, we would have to figure out more of a coaching model. But we could do that. We could do that as well.
Well, Aaron, I just want to say thank you, my friend. I'm so grateful that we actually got a chance to finally talk, instead of just going back and forth on email. So I
Yeah.
just want to say thank you. And I'm truly humbled and grateful that you took time out today to hang out with us today.
Yeah, it was a complete pleasure. I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
I love it. And guys, as you know, I end every show. Every morning we wake up, we have a choice. You can either be a victim or you can be a victor. And if you check out our show every week, you're no longer a victim of your past. You're a victor of your present and your future. Thank you guys for always showing up. I love you guys. And remember that vertical momentum, the only way to go is up. And I love you guys and have a great week. Aaron, my friend, have an awesome week. Enjoy the beautiful weather of Colorado.
Thank you, sir. You as well. Take care.